All right, so we've created a brand new file, and it's the local, I've got the local file open, the central file is on the server. Let me sync real quick because I just opened this, want to make sure everything is good. One of the first things that we need to do is we need to create additional levels. Let's say for argument that this is a 4-story building. I need to create 2 new levels. So how do I get my floor plans and my ceiling plans, or in the case of the engineers, multiple floor plans? How do I do that in Revit? Well, you cannot create levels from a plan view. You have to go to an elevation. So I'm just going to open an elevation, and it doesn't matter which one. I'm going to zoom in here, and let's say that the levels are, let's say the ground floor is 14 feet. And there's 14 feet between level 1 and level 2, and then there's going to be, let's say, 11'6" between the next levels. So, what are my next steps? Well, whether it be architecture or on the structural tab, we can go down here and we can get to level definitions. Now, a level is not an annotative object. It is a 3-dimensional object. It is an actual Revit model option that we use, or that Revit uses as a place, basically as a place to put everything in the model. Everything in the model is going to be hosted to a particular element, and you can see as I was putting those levels in that I didn't really use any set dimensions, because I can come in and I can change this after the fact. Now I could either do the math for 11'6" and say, well, I know that this needs to be 25'6". Another option that I could use is I can actually place a dimension string here along the side where these level definitions are, and you can see what these values are. Now, if I change the dimensional values, I can modify the elements. But I have to select the element that I want to be modified, and you can see how this 14-foot dimension is still black, while this 8'6" dimension is blue, and so is this 10-foot. Well, this indicates that out of this blue highlighted level, these 2 dimensions are now editable. And if I change this to 11'6", and you can see I'm not using a foot and inches indicator, all I'm doing is I'm putting a space between 11 and the 6, and Revit automatically knows that that's a foot and inches delineation. I push return. Now my level 3 is already moved up, but now I need to modify level 4 so that it too is 11'6". Now we have got 4 floor plates, but now I need to put a roof plate on there. So go ahead, now I will place another level, and I'm going to put that at 11'6", and you can see as I move my mouse, the value of that dimension will change. And that's a nice little auto or Revit default there. So now I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to make sure all these things line up. So there we are. I've got levels created. Now here's a little something. This is level 5 as far as Revit is concerned at the moment, and you can see the name of my view over here says level 5. I don't want this to be called level 5. This is the annotation of what this is going to be called in every elevation, in every section. We don't want our roof level to be shown as level 5. We want it to say roof. So here's where I change it to say roof level. And you can see I'm changing this to all caps. Would you like to rename corresponding views? This is actually a bit of a trick question. Sometimes you want to, sometimes you don't. It really depends on the situation. Right now, I want to rename these views. And now you can see over here on the side that these views have been renamed in all capitals, and for some reason I've got structural plans. I don't know why I have structural plans, but even the structural says roof level. I'm going to go back and I'm going to change this to say level 4, and we'll put it in all caps. Once again, do you want to rename it? Yes, I want to rename it. Now this is changing. There is a correlation between the name of the level, the name of the view, and what the name of this view is once I actually place it on a sheet, but I'll get there a little bit later. For right now, level 3. Let's just make all these changes. Level 2. Yes, I want to rename it. And you can see as I go that all these view names are changing right along with the names of the levels. Level 1. There we go. Now, one of the things that we need to be aware of is as we're placing these levels is what work set are these levels on. Now, in the previous video, we talked about what levels to create, and I have this one called A for architectural levels and grids. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all these levels, and I am going to change their work set. I want their work set on architectural levels and grids for architecture. If you're performing this task and you're mechanical, your workset name is going to be M levels and grids, or structural is S levels and grids. This is actually really important, and I will get into a little more detail on that once we get to worksets a couple videos from now. But just remember, the workset that you place your levels and your grids on need to be the specific levels and grids, but it's got to be specific for your discipline. Trust me, there's a really good reason for that, and we will get into it, but I don't want to bog us down at the moment. So I'm going to zoom back out. Here are all 5 of my levels. Truth is, I don't need structural plans. This is an architectural template, so I'm going to delete these views. And now I'm going to go back to level 1. So here we are, level 1. What I want now is I want to create just a couple of simple column grids. Instead of changing the workset my column grids are drawn on after the fact, I'm going to make levels and grids my current level, so that as I'm drawing my grids, they're automatically being placed on the proper column grid. So there's one. How far apart is that? Okay, so let's go with a 30-foot bay. It's a nice round number. And I'm just putting a couple in here. Now another way that I could do this, and watch this, pick lines so that I can actually pick, see if this will actually work with a freshly created, there it is. Now instead of manually drawing my lines or manually drawing arcs or creating a multi-segment grid, I can pick a line that already exists. I'm going to give it an offset of 30 feet so I can maintain that 30-foot bay spacing. So that makes things go a lot faster. Now let's create some grids going in the other direction. I don't want an offset on it this time. I'm going to come in here. 4. Let's zoom in. I'm going to rename this grid because this shouldn't be 5. This should be grid A. Now I'm going to come back, pick lines, offset to 30 feet. And I love it when Revit thinks like this. It thinks it's working hard. It's not really. I'm just placing some column grids. There we go. So now that I'm set to pick an existing line as my new column grid, I'm going to give it an offset of 30 feet. I can give a 30 by 30 foot grid. Just like that. And now I'm done. Click on the Modify tool. And when I zoom in, we can see that the auto sequencing in the grids is taken over. So I've got grids A, B, C, D. So there we go. There's that. So there's one. This is basically creating some levels and creating column grids and making sure that these objects are placed on the proper work set. Again, they must be placed on the proper work set. There will be some documentation on this forthcoming in the Revit manuals. So this is everything that I want to show you in this video, creating columns and grids in your newly created Revit project. So there you go.